to coincide with the release of the massive blockbuster that will be The Dark Knight Rises, they're releasing this game for, surprisingly, smartphones. I mean, I always thought that if you really want to make the most money, you would at least release a video game based on the movie to a major system. At least one. It doesn't have to be both the PS3, Xbox, and the Wii, but at least one of those. But here we are, we have this game on the smartphone. It's not as massive as Lego Batman. The combat is not even close to being as fluid as Arkham City. But for an iPhone, you know exactly what to expect. And for an iPhone, this is pretty damn impressive. Now, this game takes up a lot of space on an iPhone. It's somewhere in the neighborhood between 800 megabytes and 1 gigabyte. Yeah, that's a lot of space. That might not sound a lot for maybe a PC gamers, because you can hold a lot, but for a smartphone, that is a lot. Just to put that into perspective, that's something along the neighborhood of 500 songs. That's a ton of space. I mean, even a phone that has a lot of extra space, that's eating up almost too much space. You know, it's like, is one game worth that much? Well, let's talk about it a little bit. It's a great iPhone and Android game, but I was never a huge fan of controlling the smartphones. I like a joystick. I like real buttons. I don't like to drag my fingers on a slippery screen. It just doesn't feel like something solid, probably because it isn't solid, it's all digital. I like the feel of button and the joystick. That's what I'm saying. I perform a lot better in games when I have those two things. So I don't know if I can recommend this game, even though it's really one of the better quality iPhone and Android games ever released. I mean, you could tell this is quality workmanship right here. The graphics for a smartphone are absolutely stunning. You can basically do whatever you can imagine in this massive city. There aren't that many people around, but you expect that from a game on the smartphone. This is not a game that professes itself as the new GTA. This is a game that might profess itself as a smartphone answer to Arkham City. And I think it does a good job of that. The actual area where you play isn't that huge necessarily, but it's pretty much on the bigger side for a smartphone. I mean, basically, I have to say for a smartphone after everything. Like, the graphics are good for a smartphone. Like, if this came out for something like the even 3DS, I would say maybe the graphics are good enough, but the controls are just not up to snuff. It's a little too jerky to perform combat actions, and it just doesn't feel as satisfying as some of the more smoother games on the system. But for a smartphone, it's not bad. Maybe we're kind of used to just kind of jerky, not very good controls on smartphone games. Maybe this is a fault of ours. Maybe we should expect more from smartphone games. But I honestly don't, and I don't know anyone that does, so I think it's absolutely fair to say for a smartphone, the combat, the graphics, and the world map are all on not just the adequate side, but on the good side. It's not just a brainless game where you run around and do nothing. The game gives you tasks, and you feel productive. You feel like you're an actual Batman that's actually helping the city. You're making the world a better place, and I guess that's the ultimate reward for Batman. You're McGruff, the crime-fighting dog, and you're taking a bite out of the smartphone crime world. You get vehicles, you get to hang glide, you get to run around on rooftops. It's really fun, but it's at the same time somewhat frustrating because the controls aren't up to par. The combat just isn't as fluid as what we've become accustomed to when it comes to Batman games, which are mostly all fantastic, except maybe Batman and Robin for the PS1. Oh boy, is that crap. This game is ultimately, if anything, a very impressive feat for an iPhone game, so I give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's definitely something fans of Batman will enjoy, but I do once again have to say it takes up a lot of space, so if you're just a casual gamer, maybe you're not a fan of Batman, I don't know if taking up all that space on your smartphone is really worth it just for one game. For me personally, I think no matter how great the game is, like, the limit for me to keep a game on my phone is 250 megabytes. I mean, that's the absolute limit. That's insane to even think about. But yeah, that's just me. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, my friends.